Well, I'd like to welcome back Supervisor Lisa Bartlett. She oversees the 5th District. It's always good to have her on. And today she's brought along a guest, Michelle Anderson. Michelle is the Deputy Director of Emergency Management here in the county. Great to have you both on, as always. Good to see you again, and nice to meet you as well. So we're going to kind of get into our main topic, and that is, of course, we live in an area, obviously, earthquakes, but wildfires as well. Occasional floods in certain areas, as we saw this winter up in the canyon areas. But the whole bottom line to all this is really staying prepared and what the county does during these times.
Yes, you know, it's really important for everyone in the county to be prepared. We live in a zone with earthquake faults. We're prone to wildfires, and there could be heavy rains where we have floods. So it's incumbent upon everybody to be prepared in the event of an emergency. When you get that phone call, you've got 20 minutes to evacuate. To make sure that you have your checklist, you can pack your medication and your pet's food, and you've got things that you need to take out within that 20-minute time frame when you've got to evacuate.
Right, and I think, you know, obviously, in many times when it comes to earthquakes, although we have the app, we may only know a minute in advance. So that's a little bit harder, but the point is being prepared. Wildfires, most of the time, as devastating as they are, we usually get enough warning and we can grab things, we have a little bit more time, but the key is you never know.
And it's preparing for those uncertain times. We're getting into wildfire season now. It was 86 degrees yesterday. July 4th, I was in the Lake Forest July 4th parade, and we had an earthquake. And didn't feel that when the car was moving, but the next day, another 7.1 earthquake, and certainly felt that one. And it just really drives home the point that we've got to be prepared.
Right, I was the same way. We were walking down to Trabuco Canyon. You know, they have their little country parade right by the steakhouse there. So we didn't feel that one. And we'd get back to our house and it's all over the news. But the next day, we certainly did. So we're kind of both in the same. We're at parades. Michelle, welcome again. It's great to have you here today. So tell us about your role with the county.
Absolutely. So the Emergency Management Division, while it sits in the Sheriff's Department, it's actually charged with all of the emergency preparedness and management across Orange County. We work very closely with all of the cities, water districts, school districts to try and coordinate the different response and information flow. So as an example, during the July 4th earthquake, I was actually at home watching the parade on TV, and while I didn't feel anything, I saw it happen on TV, and we immediately switch into a response mode. So we start calling all of the different fire agencies, law enforcement agencies, gathering information about what the potential impacts are in Orange County. Similar to the July 4th earthquake, when the July 5th earthquake hit, again, wasn't actually sure what had happened, but have to start reaching out to the other agencies. And in that case, we did have some minor damage in Huntington Beach, water main break, some power lines down, but one of our roles is to send out information, letting other affected agencies know that everything is okay, even in that case.
Let me ask you along those lines, at what point, let's just stick with earthquakes for the moment, at what point, I should say at what magnitude, do you folks go into action? Is it, because if, you know, this is California, we have a 2.8, we have 3.1, it's like, okay. But do you have a certain threshold where you folks go into action?
So for most first responders, so law enforcement and fire, if they're out in the field, if there's an earthquake at all, they'll actually start doing what are called windshield surveys, where as they're driving along, they are checking to see if there are any damages. For the Emergency Operations Center up at Loma Ridge, we would activate for anything potentially a 5.0 or greater in Orange County. The caveat there being, if there is a major impact to Orange County where we have to start coordinating resources, we can activate just on demand as well.
Okay, where's Loma Ridge? located?
So Lumber Ridge is out near Irvine Lake, so
Okay.
at the crossroads of Santiago Canyon Road and Jamboree.
Okay.
So
right.
we have a fantastic view of all of Orange County.
All right, and a great park up there.
Absolutely.
So we're going to go through some of the slides here, and this is the initial response and what happens here. So if you can sort of take us through this.
Correct. So we have coordination points in place with each of the city's water district school districts where we start to gather situational information. So information about buildings, hospitals, any type of transportation or utilities, and we try and gather that together so that we can give our policymakers and our first responders a better understanding of what's happening in the field, and we can start prioritizing resources for response. So if you were to imagine a large catastrophic earthquake happening in Orange County, we only have so many law enforcement, fire services personnel. So it would be critical to address issues on a priority basis. And that's where, as we do outreach to community members, we really try and stress preparedness.
Right.
Because the ability of first responders to get to everyone may be limited. And so it's critical that people are able to take care of themselves, their loved ones, their neighbors, for a period following a catastrophic incident.
Right, and of course, for this community, it's even more important because a lot of folks, of course, are maybe not as mobile as they used to be. They're on certain kinds of medications or whatever. So it's the difficulty goes up, and to being prepared is even more critical.
Absolutely. So we have a couple of programs in place at the beginning of preparedness to try and help people in preparing.
And this is great.
So,
we're showing these websites here.
yes.
Yeah.
So one of them is the Ready OC program, and you can go online and get information there on the 3 essentials. So make a kit, make a plan, get informed. And those are some of those critical elements that we talk about, whether it's having water on hand, having a supply of food on hand, having a first aid kit on hand. Similarly, the make a plan. When a disaster strikes, what are you going to do? Do you have people who you can reach out to out of state to let them know that you're okay? People who can reach out to you and make sure that you're okay.
Right.
And similarly, if you needed to evacuate, do you know where you would go? Do you know what you would take with you? I use myself as an example. During the Holy Fire, I live in Rancho Santa Margarita as well, and I was right on the boundary. And I had thought before I report to work, I should go through my house and actually decide what would I take with me.
Yeah, yeah.
And my grandma had given me a signed Louis L'Amour book, and I could not find that. And the realization that in a real disaster where I had to evacuate and time was limited, that would have been something that would have been heartbreaking to me to lose. So reminding people, plan in advance what matters, what's important, and make sure you have a plan if you have to evacuate of where those items are.
Now the next slide we're going to see is Alert OC. So tell the folks the difference between Ready OC and Alert OC.
Absolutely. So Alert OC is the component of Stay Informed. The Alert OC program is our emergency mass notification system, and it's how we'll communicate out to you that there is some type of protective action to take. So whether you need to shelter in place, which is stay inside, or if you need to evacuate the area, or just generally speaking that there is a fire in a particular area and that first responders are aware of it. We really need people to log into Alert OC, create an account, put in all of your contact information. So whether it's a cell phone, a landline, but also all the addresses that you care about. So think about where you live, where your loved ones live, where maybe your children go to school, if you have people that you care for, where those people live, because all of our messages are targeted based on address. So we need to know all those addresses that you care about.
Okay, very important. And then on the next slide, just recommendations for seniors. We kind of talked about this, but you know, when it comes to them, And it's not as though I'm saying everyone that lives here are immobile or need medications, because that's not the case at all. But you know yourself, if you are someone who requires just in your daily life additional help or whatever it might be, those are probably the primary things you need to think about.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we really stress in emergency preparedness is community, is make sure that you have some type of a support network. So individuals who would call to make sure you were okay, or individuals that you could go and check on to make sure they were okay. Besides in earthquakes is extreme heat events, right, is making sure that we're checking on our neighbors and that they're okay. Additionally to that, talking about, and it's not on the slide, but making sure if you are dependent on any type of a secondary power source for medical devices.
Yeah, very good point.
The power companies have a new program that's rolling out this year. It's called the Public Safety Power Shutoff Program, where they may be shutting off power during Santa Ana wind events. And so we're really trying to remind people, check your backup batteries to make sure that they function. Yeah,
very good point. And of course, additional considerations are things like pets, and particularly service animals.
Absolutely. And especially nowadays, there's lots of pets who have medications as well. So making sure that you have medications for your pets.
And finally, we're going to talk about what actions you can take. And I like what, you put something here on this slide, start with just 2. And I think that's good, because sometimes people get overwhelmed. What do I need to do? Do I even have space to have this little area of things I need to take? So just starting is a great way to go.
Absolutely. And the American Red Cross has a little shopping list where it's a 1 item a week, because people think, oh, this can be really expensive to make a kit like this.
Yeah.
But it really is. If you just do 1 or 2 things a week, a month, it will help advance your preparedness.
I want to point out something there that I think we've had the Orange County Fire Authority on many, many, many times. Great folks over the years. And I think there's one thing on the list there that people seem to forget about, and that's fire extinguishers. Now, whether or not we're talking about earthquakes or wildfires, that's a different thing. But just to have the proper fire extinguisher in your house. I have one under our sink, and I think I have one out in the backyard in my shed for my barbecues and things like that. But how important it is, and they're very, very inexpensive. And you can find out, you can go online to Orange County Fire Authority, find out what kind you need, what's proper for your house. But that stood out to me, because that is such an important thing. Absolutely. The fire extinguishers and fire alarms. And making sure that they're not disabled. Is I hear many stories of people disabling their smoke detectors because it goes off when they're cooking. And then everyone says, hey, dinner's ready.
And the Orange County Fire Authority will come out and install a fire alarm, smoke alarm in your home. So that's something to keep in mind for our seniors who don't want to endeavor to go out and do that themselves.
Right. And that's a great service. And of course, nowadays, most of them have a 10-year battery life in them, which is great, which really means, in my mind, after 9 years, replace, meaning you're replacing the whole unit. Every year, you have a wonderful summit for emergency preparedness. And this year, it's coming up October 19th. Of course, we'll tell you more about this as we get closer to it, over at the Norman P. Murray. And this is an important thing, and it's a great thing that you do, and all the other folks that are involved here as well.
It's our annual event, so this will be our 12th annual emergency preparedness event, and we're working to get folks here transported over to the event in Mission Viejo. But this is a great opportunity for all of our seniors here in Laguna Woods to take advantage of a regional event and get literature about what you can do to be prepared for emergencies, actually get a lot of things you can take away with you. You can take the white buckets, for instance, with the checklist of what to pack, and those waterproof buckets. I gave those away 2 years ago at our senior summit. But a lot of good information, and they will help you get signed up for the Alert OC and information for that you can keep by your phone for if you have an earthquake or if you've got phone calls that you need to make. That checklist of things to go through, they will help get you prepared in the event of an emergency or if you've got to evacuate.
Right, and the bucket's a great idea because those 5-gallon buckets you can put a lot into, and you first aid kit, a little money, you could put your medications in, you know, trade them out every month so they stay fresh or whatever it might be, batteries, things like that. And they're waterproof, so you can just grab and go, and you know, that's a very good thing.
Yeah, it gives you peace of mind when you know you're prepared no matter what comes up as an emergency.
All right, very good. One other thing I want to emphasize once again, Alert OC, people signing up for that?
Absolutely. So you can either text in by texting Alert OC to 888-777, or you can log on to alertoc.com and please again put in all of the addresses that you care about. Okay,
in this community we also have something called Code Red, which is similar for this community. Correct. But Alert, do both, definitely, because our Alert OC is maybe going to let you know of something that's out in another area, but still you want to be informed about that.
Absolutely.
All right, great to meet you. Thank you very much. Always good to see you, Supervisor. Thank you. And I know we'll see you again before October 19th, but we'll remind people about that as well.
Yes.
All right, very good. And you know, if you want more information, you can go online for all these different things and get all kinds of things like that. And in, you know, one place you can go that you won't forget, you can go to the ocfa.org, Orange County Fire Authority, and go online to the Sheriff's Department. Of course, if you go to the Orange County Emergency Preparedness, and all you got to do is look that up and it'll come up to you instead of trying to type in this long website. That's the easiest way to do it. You'll find it there. All right, thank you again, and we'll be right back.